What's going on, everybody? I'm Patrick from POWLAX and welcome to the POWLAX Backyard. This is a very special episode of the POWLAX Backyard because we're going to be talking about women's sticks and how modern advancements in the women's stick technology has bridged the gap between how the women's sticks and the men's sticks perform, giving us three situations where women may actually want to take the advantages of a men's stick and use them, because now once they go back to using their women's stick, all of the skills are going to transfer. The other thing that this does for us is it makes it so that all of the men's skills training will actually apply to women now because their sticks perform so well. So we're going to talk about what they changed, how the technology works, and then those applications where women may want to use some men's sticks to gain a bit of an advantage because the skills that they use with the men's stick will now transfer back to their women's stick. So let's get started. This is the POWLAX Backyard, where I'll be teaching techniques, common mistakes, and showing you ways to improve your game at home. The first thing we're going to discuss is the difference between the older women's sticks and men's sticks. And the first thing that we're going to notice is obviously pocket depth. Men's sticks are allowed to have pockets as deep as they can go, as long as you can't see space between the bottom sidewall and the top of the ball. Now, women's sticks, you have to be able to see the ball over the top sidewall at all levels of the stick in order for it to be legal. So the pockets for men's sticks can be quite a bit deeper. The reason why this matters is because the farther back the ball sits, the easier it is to control, because the more centrifugal force is created as you are spinning the stick and cradling like this. To help with this in the men's game, they created offset pockets. The plastic of the head is actually going to tilt backwards towards the pocket to create more centrifugal force because it sits back farther off of the axis without violating that legality rule. Now, women's sticks did the same kind of thing where they have this pop offset as well. Now, the last things that men's sticks have that women's sticks don't is the ability to carry vertically without cradling. Now, some sticks can, some sticks can't, but for the most part, women's sticks really can't in terms of the pocket controlling the ball. So they built this little shelf on the kind of top of the shaft, bottom of the head, so that you could control. Now, the problem is because of the shape of the pocket of women's sticks, it basically allows you to control it, but it's not very stuck in there. Like, the ball can still just roll freely throughout the pocket, which makes it pretty difficult to control. Now, the final aspect of the older women's heads I want to talk about is how we create kind of our release point. So as you're cradling with these older lacrosse heads and you can't control the ball as well, the scoop of the stick is going to kind of fling forward. That's what's going to give you your whip or your release point. Now, I think of whip as the amount of force it's going to take for the ball to exit the stick. So if you have a really big hook on the top of the stick, it's going to need a lot of force to get the ball out. If it's very slight, it's going to not have any whip. And so if you throw the ball using the same technique, if the ball goes up, it's going to be low whip. If the ball goes medium, it'll be middle whip. And if the ball goes down, it's going to be a lot of whip. And so when we think about all those aspects of the older heads, and now we bring the new heads, there's a big difference in the shape of the head, and I like to call it essentially check mark technology. What that is just the shape of the head, and so if you notice that the shape is a check mark, it's got the new technology, you're fair game to use it. Now, this stick is a String King starter. This is a great beginning stick, especially at $90, considering the prices of some of the more advanced sticks that you can find. Now, what is this check mark technology? What it is that rather than going offset immediately and having a flat pocket before the scoop comes back forward, they are going to gradually have the offset happen and then fling back at the end, creating a sweet spot in the stick. Now, what this is going to do is, rather than having to carry vertically with the ball on the plastic, as we cradle, that slow decline is now going to force the ball into the sweet spot of the pocket, which really locks the ball in place as we are cradling. Now, because the ball is in the same spot every time, when I go to pass, I don't need to worry about how much of this stick the ball rolled up and how much momentum it got as it was rolling up. It's gonna be in that sweet spot the whole time. And so as you go to make your pass, you're gonna feel the same thing every time. Now, The way the scoop flicks back is going to create your whip. Now the whip is just about as much as a low to mid whip men's stick. Now, because it's about the same, that means that our passing and our shooting techniques are going to be the same. Now, where are the women's sticks different now than the men's sticks? The answer is in cradling vertically. With a women's stick, we have to continuously cradle vertically. Now, what's that going to change? The two things that's going to change in addition to just the act of cradling is going to be catching and then switching hands. Basically, for a men's stick, we teach to throw the stick basically down into a holster to switch hands, but because there's nowhere for the ball to land in the women's stick, we are no longer going to do that. We're just going to get into our cradling motion, and then we're going to drive our bottom hand up to switch hands and then begin cradling immediately on the other side. So we drive our bottom hand up, and that's what's going to switch hands. Our top hand becomes our bottom hand. Now, the next place is that it has to do with catching. Catching is essentially exactly the same, but if we bring the stick vertical, we have to continue cradling right away. Now, this is really difficult. If you're a brand new player who's trying to learn how to catch, not only do you have to position the stick perfectly and give, but you also have to get right into that cradling motion. This is one of the places where just using a men's stick, all we got to do is put the stick in the right place, lean it back a little bit, and now we're catching the ball. Now, in addition to that, when we think about maybe catching the ball on the opposite side of our body, that's even more difficult, right? So we've got to track the ball across our body, bring the face of the stick all the way over, let the ball hit, let it relax, curl our hand, and then bring it back into our cradling motion. Whereas if we use a men's stick, we don't have to get it and pull it back right away. We can allow it to hit. And because the passing technique is basically the same, now we can work on catching, but when we move back to the women's stick, we just got to remember, as I catch it, I've got to get right into my cradle. So now that we've covered how women's sticks now can perform on the same level as men's sticks, where are the places where women would want to use men's sticks? Now, I can think of three places. First is when they're just starting out. Second is when they're playing box lacrosse. And third is when they're playing pickup games with a light tennis ball. Now, the reasons why we'd want to use a men's stick is so that they do not have to continue cradling and so that they have a bit more control as they are maneuvering and carrying the ball with their stick. Now, if players are just starting out learning how to play lacrosse, it doesn't make sense to give them a stick that they're going to have to continuously cradle with before they move up to pass or before they try to dodge. Because every time they stop their movement, if the ball keeps falling out, that's just going to be ridiculously frustrating. I'd rather give them a men's stick that they can stop moving their stick with so that they can actually just try to focus on learning how to catch, learning how to pass, learning how to protect their stick. Once they pick up the ball and they try to, say, evade someone, instead of face dodging over and then having the ball fall out of their stick every time, they're going to keep the ball, which means they're going to get to the next stage of the game, which means now they're going to read and react, get the stick to their collarbone, throw their pass with the same technique they'd use with the women's stick. But because they had the men's stick, the ball stayed in their stick. It's less frustrating, and really it just becomes more fun when you're better because you just have that men's stick, which is going to sell the game to a lot more players. I feel like a lot of girls players who get these terrible beginner women's sticks that have no offset, no sweet spot. It's got to be so frustrating trying to learn them unless you're really ingrained in the sport. But if you just use that men's stick at first, you become more successful and you have more fun. Now, the second place is in the box. So you'd have a lot of parents who would say things like, why would I have my girl go play with a boy stick and play box lacrosse? And the reason is because box lacrosse forces you to be more physical, shoot on a smaller goal, and all of the skills that you're learning in the box are now going to transfer to the girl's stick. It doesn't make sense to play with a women's stick if you're going to be in a full contact game, which box lacrosse would be, which I highly recommend if you've got a girls player, have them play box. The majority of the women's box I've watched versus boys, the girls are way more violent than the boys because they don't get the opportunity to do it. So when they do, man, they go and they hit hard. And usually the women's teams will play a year down against the boys. But so in that game, it's impossible to get through full contact playing with a women's stick. That's why the women's game doesn't have full contact. It is physical, but it's not full contact. Now the next place is if we are playing with a tennis ball. Now, is it possible to play with a tennis ball and a girl's stick? Absolutely. But if you're playing pickup with boys who have boys sticks and they're throwing full speed passes across the crease and you're trying to catch this really light ball, it's very, very difficult. But so since all of the playing techniques of passing, faking, catching are essentially the same with a men's stick, by just using the men's stick, we can bypass the difficulty of carrying with light balls to the advanced skills that we're going to be able to use once we get back to the women's game with our women's sticks. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Am I totally crazy, or is this something that a lot of people have been thinking for a while? Like, do you feel that you can control the ball the same as you would with a girl stick with a men's stick? And make sure to follow POWLAX on all of social media. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope this video has helped you get a better understanding of the game and how to practice at home. If you liked it, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the POWLAX YouTube channel, and follow POWLAX on social media. To watch and learn more, support the POWLAX mission, and download the PDFs that accompany all of the POWLAX videos, head to POWLAX.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.